For our Time for All Ages this morning, I wanted to find a way to connect with what we'll be hearing later from Cheryl Stevens and the Preventionfocus ministry in the community. And so I went through all my little books and stories and thought, well, that just doesn't fit, and neither did that. And then I got really frustrated and I took a nap. But I did come up with something. So I happened to remember, as I woke up refreshed from my 20-minute power nap, that way back in 2016, I offered a worship service during Women's History Month about the Iowa Sisterhood. And I think it's just the right amount of time that some of you are going, I think I remember. And some of you are going, wait, what? And so let me just pull a snippet that I think will help connect the parts of the service today. So I want to talk about these three ladies. So the lady on the left, her name is Marion Murdoch. And I feel a special affinity with Marion because at the age of 8, she heard a call to ministry. 100 years later, at the age of 8, I heard the call to ministry. So we're like soul sisters. So Marion and her family lived in Iowa, and they were free-thinking Universalists. And so when Marion came forward and said, I have a call, I really feel like I'm supposed to be a minister, her folks weren't fazed at all. Of course you heard a call. Yes. How can we support you in this? So years later, fast forward from 1858, when she first heard that call, to 1882, when she's 32, she was called to be the sole minister at the Unity Church in Humboldt, Iowa. Well, she had big shoes to fill because Humboldt Unity Church had just had co-ministers, a 2-woman team. And there are these other 2 ladies, Mary Safford in the middle and Eleanor Gordon. Mary and Eleanor were lifelong friends. And as girls, they had pledged to help make the world a better place together. And then they went about to do it. And let's see, Mary was ordained in 1880 at Humboldt at the Unity Church. So over the years, Mary and Eleanor made some significant changes to how church happened. Now, Iowa probably doesn't sound that far away. I mean, when you think of the frontier, maybe you're thinking way west. Well, in the late 1800s, Iowa was way west. And there weren't many Unitarian churches out in that area. And so these women were also acting as sort of missionaries and bringing the life-affirming message of Unitarianism to the frontier. Unlike their counterparts back east, who were predominantly male, that this isn't like an anti-male thing, it's just, it's a truth. It was mostly men preachers in the east. The opportunities for women preachers were along the frontier. So their colleagues back east tended to give very long and intellectually stimulating sermons that didn't have much to do with sort of the practicalities of life. And really thought that the whole point of their ministry was to prepare a sermon and deliver a sermon. Well, out on the frontier, you know, resources were pretty slim. And these women ministers were very creative. And they thought about church and how people at church are sort of a family together. And I think we feel that when we're here, that, you know, oh, the kids, they feel like my kids. Oh, the elders, they feel like my elders. We feel connected in a family kind of way. And so Mary Safford and Eleanor Gordon thought about that and said, well, if church is like a family, then church should feel like home. And so they started making church more home-like. They rearranged the furniture. I knew I liked these ladies for a reason. And they tried to make it more sitting closer to be in a circle so people felt like they were together and not pointed just straight forward. They put potted plants throughout the building to make it kind of cozy, put down rugs, comfortable seating. We're still working on that. And they started offering classes during the rest of the week. Classes in literacy, classes in homemaking, in cooking, in being able to fend for a family out on the frontier. So really taking this huge initiative of not just tending to the spiritual, still tending to the spiritual, but also to the emotional and the physical needs of the community, to build a stronger community. And we owe this whole idea that church should feel a little bit cozy and we should feel a bit connected to these women right up here. It's a direct line from, well, Marion, because she's my soul sister, and she did some work because she followed these ladies. How would you like to have to follow them at your next job? But Mary Safford and Eleanor Gordon, as they completely changed how church happened. How cool is that? Let's sing our kids to their programming, shall we? We're going to have a bit of an update. As Karen mentioned earlier, this is our 1-year anniversary for starting the Amherst Little Free Pantry, and I've asked Maria Ceraulo, who has been out in front on this project, to offer us a bit of an update. Maria.
Friends, exactly 1 year ago tomorrow, we started an amazing journey. We had a dream to create a food pantry that would help everyone in need and not turn anyone away. For those of you who don't know, our pantry is in a wooden cabinet outside under the front portico. It is stocked with non-perishables and essentials and is open 24/7, 365 days a year to those in need. It is so unique that even social workers I talk to are amazed that we don't have any eligibility guidelines or ask any questions like all the other food pantries. I started a conversation with a police officer recently, and he too confirmed what we already know, that there is a need beyond what a traditional food pantry provides. I have been told that people want to be of service, and we have reached that out far beyond the walls of our church. I'd like to share a quick story which some of you may have already heard that proves that point. One of our pantry team members, Virginia Snyder, was recently shopping for food for the pantry. She was talking to the woman behind her and told her about the pantry at our church and that she was buying food for the pantry. Virginia let the woman get ahead of her in line because she only had a few items. When it was Virginia's turn at the register, the clerk told her that the other woman had donated $10 toward Virginia's pantry food bill. The woman had already left the store, and so Virginia never even got the chance to thank her. You created that. Service beyond our walls, from a total stranger who shares our vision. That woman has likely never stepped foot in our church, perhaps has never even heard of us. But we are united in mission and spirit. She cared, and you care. We have been fortunate to be stewards of the startup grant funds entrusted to us by the network of religious communities. Lately, if you've looked in the pantry, the donations have been a little sparser than before. But we are now rededicated to working harder than ever to keep the pantry full. Sustaining a big project like a food pantry takes daily effort. Indeed, someone checks the pantry and refills it every day. In fact, most of the people who are volunteering on the pantry team have been doing so since the idea was first discussed 3 years ago. It feels like a little miracle we have created. Every single day we are serving a need and people are using the pantry. As I've said before, we've seen no evidence of food hoarding. No one has wiped us out completely like some naysayers said would happen last year. I can't tell you how many people we've helped or where they live or their ages. I have seen both men and women, but mostly women, use the pantry, both young and old. The nature of serving all in need all the time is that we collect no information about them. A few weeks ago, I met a homeless man at our pantry. He had 3 black duffel bags with him and a grocery bag with some food from our pantry. Next to him was an open, empty can of fruit. He was hungry. He said he came to us by the Main Street bus, and so I offered to give him extra of what he needed and could carry. He said the system had failed him and that he was so grateful for the anonymous nature of our pantry. I wanted to do more to help, but he said the food was a big help in itself. Based on the anonymous comments left in the pantry, many just need a little extra help to make ends meet. Some, like this homeless man, have recently lost a job. Others are working, but not earning enough. Now more than ever, people are reluctant to use a traditional food pantry, or it is getting harder to qualify. In this age, it is dangerous for groups such as immigrants and those marginalized to even give documentation of needing public assistance. We can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. I have the best team on the planet who have worked for the past year keeping the pantry going. Next month, we will participate in a homeless conference at the Buffalo Convention Center. Those who are homeless or in danger of becoming homeless are literally bussed in from shelters, their homes, and off the street. Social service agencies and other organizations will offer services to this fragile population. There are hairdressers giving free haircuts and a bike clinic for minor repairs. This year, I am proud to say we will be giving out over 800 granola bars, an easy-to-eat snack, 2 to each person, and can openers, which people last year told us they needed. Last year, we were the only food pantry represented, and 2 of our volunteers attended, literally 2 weeks after we opened our doors. We were overwhelmed by the heartbreaking stories we heard. This year, 4 volunteers are attending. I thank Congregation Havre, especially Enid Block, for assisting us and the network of religious communities for helping fund our dream. There are brown bags in the back entrance to the church with a list of needed pantry items. Anything on the list, no, of course not the whole list, would be greatly appreciated. I am so proud of this congregation. I want to thank every one of you for keeping the pantry going. Please keep the love coming. I especially want to thank Karen Kuhn-Thompson and her team planning the Scavenger Hunt Road Rally, which will benefit the pantry. There are flyers in the lobby with more details. And coming soon, look for our Amazon wish list. We'll allow you to order items we need right from your Amazon account, and if you'd like, you can even have them delivered right to church. Please join us in the Emerson room for coffee hour after service today and enjoy a piece of cake to help us celebrate the first year of the Amherst Little Free Pantry. Thank you for your continued support.
We're very pleased to have Cheryl Stevens, Program Manager with Preventionfocus, returning to our pulpit today to share about one of the programs that Preventionfocus offers, the Supper Club. Following Cheryl's presentation, there will be a Share the Plate offering to support the work of Preventionfocus, and you will find instructions on how to participate in that sharing right on the front of your order of service. Cheryl will also make herself available for questions at the conclusion of the worship service. And now, Cheryl, share with us your story.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so glad to be here. Wow, as usual, this has been quite an interesting experience for me. I am a very churched person. My grandfather was a Pentecostal minister in Connecticut, where I'm from, and I have been a part of a congregation for maybe almost 40 years before our church dissolved 2 years ago. And this is a lovely experience for me to visit your congregation again. I was listening deeply to what was shared this morning, and I want to say hello to those I have met in the past. I see some faces that I've known from the Clarence Library, as well as a dear friend of mine. And what Michelle mentioned earlier in her talk about the Iowa Sisters and community is very much what was on my mind as the way I would like to present the Supper Club to you today. Community. Community is very important to me, to our world, and the Supper Club grew out of my mother's sense of community. Community building around the dinner table. As I said, I came from Connecticut, and my mother, who was a married woman with 6 children, was very much interested in our community, particularly girls and women in our community. So I was raised with her doing after-school programming for kids on her own, not through the school, not getting paid. There was a community church in our neighborhood that afforded her space to let girls come, and we do games and cook some small thing and just come together. And I didn't really understand at that time, but I grew to understand that outreach to those young ladies and bringing us all together helped us to have a focus on a life beyond 11 years old, a life that involved being connected to other people and understanding that you don't need to have a lot, just a bit of support to start something that can be great. And so the Supper Club grew out of that particular outlook. My name is Cheryl, and I'm from Preventionfocus. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. That's because I get so involved listening to you guys when I'm here. I had to take myself out of that. So Preventionfocus, the agency that now houses the Supper Club that I'm going to talk to you about, is a substance abuse prevention outreach to Erie County. As we all know, life can be challenging, and in the challenges of life, some people decide they want to use a substance in order to make it through. And more in our society as a whole, we've seen that there's been a drug epidemic for many reasons. So Preventionfocus is about reaching out to young people and families in the community to discourage that behavior, to offer options for managing challenges. The Supper Club is one such opportunity. All right, the Supper Club is for childless girls between the ages of 11 and 19, and we serve girls because it grew out of another program we had, which was Woman Focus, dealing with adult women and adult women's issues on self-esteem, assertiveness, and understanding anger in our lives, and how not managing those things might put you more at risk of picking up a prescription drug in order to negotiate life. So this is very much linked. So the Supper Club is for girls who do not have children, and the dinner group is for girls who are pregnant or have children. Because we are prevention, we're wanting to keep both communities sustained without romanticizing one or the other. Sometimes if girls see a girl who is pregnant or has a child seemingly continuing on with life as if there are no attachments or burdens, that romanticizes that for her. So we don't have any issues against girls who have children, but we're trying to sustain both groups. Poverty in Erie County, as you know, is very intense. 21.9% of children under the age of 18 are living in poverty in Erie County. 42.1% of female households are single households with children, and it keeps showing out that women, girls who have children alone will be in poverty. So the Supper Club, which is a community builder, one meal at a time, has some key components. We have actually been in supper clubs that your church has supported. We've had 2 in the past. One is a Lackawanna Supper Club, and that particular supper club happened in the summer. It's a 10-session long service delivery, and it's 3 hours each time. The girls prepare a meal entirely from scratch. No boxed potatoes, no pre-shredded cheese. Everything is entirely from scratch. And at that particular supper club, the girls were not only Christian-based girls, but also girls that were Muslim in their coverings, and their moms had to make the decision to allow them to participate in that particular supper club, and they did. It was well received. The girls worked nicely together. The moms come to a final dinner to see what their daughters have done. So not only do we have the girls working together for 10 sessions, which is about 10 weeks, or in the summertime we do it twice a week, but the moms come also, and they learn about what the girls have done, as well as sitting with the other moms of the community that they're currently living in. And again, another opportunity to build and strengthen people being together. We also have 3 veggies in each meal, and the girls eat family style. So there's a tablecloth on the table, and there's plates, much like the Iowa Sisters. We try to make it home. Okay. Again, we already know about poverty. I'm not even going to spend a lot of time on that because I really want to talk about Supper Club. That table that you see, the girls set that table. The girls prepared what's on that table, and we're going to go to the next slide. Another key component of Supper Club is cooperation. So there are stations and teams that prepare the entire meal. There'll be a station for salad. There'll be a station for pumpkin bars with whipped cream, and yes, they pour the cream in and whip it. And no, it's not a canister of anything. The reason for that is it seems even since Supper Club began, which was actually in the very late 80s, it seems like thousands of years ago that people knew how to do things for themselves instead of just taking it off the shelf of Wegmans or the package at Aldi's or whatever. And we feel it's very important for young people and old people to know how to do for yourself, to know how much something costs, so you can make a decision, an informed decision about what's the best way for you to manage your life. So we're not trying to domesticate girls. We're trying to help girls to understand what's in the world, flavors, people, amounts of money that you pay for things. You can buy a $13 burger out and have nothing to show for it afterwards, or you can buy some burger meat and some cheese or whatever and have some left over and not even spend $13. So that seems so unusual now to people, and at the time that Supper Club began, it was not unusual. More people were eating at home and making things from scratch. Girls and participants, we also have college interns that work with us, learn how to set tables and wash dishes for themselves, as well as to share with others in the future. Working in teams promotes social connection. That is oh so true. I came from churches where we went camping in the summer together, where we lived together communally in households, and people that we did not know at all, we learned to become a part of through those simple methods. The next key component of Supper Club is kitchen hygiene. This particular young lady was in a Kenmore school, and the girls really love Supper Club. They love to chop, they love to stir, they love to sit down and eat together. They say often, this is one of the few times I get to sit down to eat with another person, because so many families are busy, and either there is not enough food in the house and there's just a few things to pick through, or there's a pot of food that's left on the stove and children put it on their plates, reheat it, and go into their bedrooms with it. That sounds to me not like community building. It sounds like isolation, and we have quite a bit of isolation in our world as it is. So with kitchen hygiene, we want girls and all of the participants to learn about keeping things clean and washing our hands and sharing health in our communities. Supper Club helps girls to understand that the way what you eat is going to affect how you feel, and what you eat and how you feel goes into not only today but tomorrow and into the future. We have had children that come in and say, I only eat white food, or I only eat chicken fingers. My mother knows I only eat chicken fingers. I can't eat anything but chicken fingers. And we tell them, if you want the pumpkin bars with the whipped cream, then you're going to try the stromboli today. And then they try the stromboli today because children are to be raised and guided and taught and shown many options so that they can have a full life. Children are not to be just totally left to their own thought. When you have a puppy, you don't allow the puppy to just do whatever it wants to do. You're trying to help it become functional in your home and in the community, hopefully. Otherwise, you'll end up on Judge Judy. Okay. That's the next one. All right, so supper club. You know it's true, don't you? Okay, that's the same thing with people's children sometimes. So we want to not be a nutrition club. We are not a nutrition club, but we do want to introduce some possibilities to people that they never thought of eating. This is a plate that the girls put together of beautiful sauteed peppers and flat leaf parsley. And when we talk, we have food facts on the table, and we say, someone read about this food. They've never seen it before. They've never tasted it, but I know that you understand this. We all come from families, and each family has their own way of doing things. Maybe your mother just didn't like to cook certain things, so you never got it at home. But in order for our girls to be able to see the whole world as something that they can participate in, we feel it's important to expose them to all types of food for health, as well as their ability to be able to function and go forward and not find themselves at a table where they say, I only eat chicken fingers, because that will limit you in many different ways. I'm the eldest of 6 children. And I happen to have had in me from the start a desire to cook and to make things look nice. I have a sister. She's not that way. I have 4 brothers. They're not that way. They all came to my house for years and years and years and years and years. So it's just not something that everyone has, but it has been of benefit to me. And then also I was single for a long time before I was married. And I learned, because of my church community, that I'm living today. Therefore, I'm living fully today. I shared with a friend recently that while I was single, I had this block in my mind that I couldn't buy a mattress, because why buy a mattress? You're going to buy one when you get married. How insane was that? But it was really clear in my head. I was working every day and sleeping on a horrible mattress. So suddenly it clicked. I bought the mattress. I used to travel. I'd do all kinds of things. Had a nice car. And I often prepared meals for myself and for friends, because they were too lazy to cook for themselves, and I would always have it nice for myself. So we try to help the girls to understand, it's your life, you can have it nice for you. So this particular setting here is at Lakeshore High School, and this is one of the final dinners that the girls set the tables, and you see a couple mothers waiting, because the girls are cooking and they're preparing, and they're going to bring it to the table, and they're going to serve. Next. All right. So, am I doing okay on my time? All right, great. So the next key component of Supper Club, and this is part of the whole thing, is if it were up to me, Supper Club would be 20 weeks long, and we would continually just strengthen these components in the lives of girls, but we cannot do that because it costs money, and the state doesn't want us to do that. Anyway. So, link the community. We want Supper Club girls. We try to instill in them, you're here as a team working together to prepare something nice for all of you, and then eventually at that last session you're going to come up with a menu, and you're going to plan a dinner for the female guardian in your life. They're going to come to the table. They're not going to lift one finger. They're going to sit down. You're going to greet them at the door. You're going to give them a name tag. You're going to ask, what would you like to drink? This is what we have to offer. And then you're going to put the food out there and you're going to let them know you learned about budgeting, kitchen hygiene, kitchen safety. You're going to let them know that you talked about topics like self-esteem, understanding anger, what makes a good girl, what's a good friend, tolerance and diversity, substance use, how does that impact my life? You're going to tell them all about this. And so we're trying to have young people not only think about themselves but others. This might not look tasty to you, but it is steak Asian stir fry that the girls make, and it has about 10 vegetables in it and a little bit of steak, which they think is fascinating and wonderful. Sometimes we make it with chicken because we know that that's supposed to be more helpful to these days. So we want girls to try new foods. Again, there's a big link between thinking narrowly, eating narrowly, and not being able to interact with others. Letting yourself at least try something new means you're capable of looking at somebody across the table that may have something different on than you, a different hairdo than you, but you're willing to try just one time at least. And that one time can be very helpful and maybe the start of something big. Hospitality, we have the girls again preparing to share. They serve them each other sometimes at supper club because we want the girls to practice before the final dinner. Dinner group, as we talked about, sometimes young ladies have children or they're pregnant, and we have a separate program for them so that we can talk about topics that have to do with their lives. For example, how to negotiate whoever the father is, if your parents don't like that person, that person's not good for you, conflict management, balance, and healthy relating. Enhancing personal care skills is a big part of Supper Club. So when we offer the girls food at Supper Club, we know some girls are challenged with food issues or their weight. And so we say, would you like a mini or a regular instead of, would you like a big portion or a little portion? Because the girls think as our culture thinks. I need to be slim and trim, and maybe I shouldn't be eating at all, and things of that nature. We help girls learn how to read a recipe. Why is that important? It slows them down to look at instructions and guidelines for how to get from point A to point B, how to get the positive outcome by slowing down, working with your teammate, and just getting to that place you need to get to. We have budget sheets and circulars. The girls are able to figure out how much their portion of the meal costs. We talked about food facts a little bit. Each week, the girls have like a mystery fruit that they've never seen before as their pre-working snack. So we have dragon fruit and star fruit. We have, for some girls, pears are exotic to them. And we have it all cut up on a plate, and the girls try it, and they get to say whether they liked it or not. Journaling is also a very deliberate piece of the Supper Club. People in general move too quickly through the world, so we have about 10 minutes during the Supper Club time after you've done your station work where you get to sit down in a designated area with your own journal, which has a sheet for that particular day with 4 questions. Self-esteem, blah, 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 blah. Why does this matter to you? So you're taking a time to sit down with your own thoughts and thinking it through and answering some questions. And after that, our dinner table conversation is on that very same topic. Okay. So this is a little commentary on Supper Club from Carmelita Bergen, who was the assistant principal at West Hurdle Academy. She's since gone to McKinley High School. Then we have, if you're interested, she gave us kudos about Supper Club. And then we have some more kudos on Supper Club. This particular image is from the Sheridan Parkside Supper Club that we offered in Tonawanda. Does everyone know where Sheridan Parkside is? It's a depressed little area, sort of scary in the daytime to me, but there are lots of families crammed back there. And I remember we were doing a supper club at Hoover Middle School, and there were two little fairy-like girls who were walking home in the dark to Sheridan Parkside. And so I broke our agency rule and put them in my car and took them home, and then I really did get to see Sheridan Parkside in the dark, and it was scarier than in the day to me. So children all over our area need support, and Supper Club supports them and their families. Many moms say to their daughters, and the daughters say to us, my mother said, can we bring the leftovers home today? We always give the girls leftovers, but we know some families are needing them versus wanting to taste them. Okay, so this is me. I'm the programs manager, and I'm at Preventionfocus, and if you're interested in any further materials on Supper Club, if you would just contact me at my email, I'll send that out to you. We're trying to save paper. Okay.
The drill will be, if you have a question or comment, if you would just raise your hand, and then I will jog over to you, and Pat is on it.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Really appreciate it. Can you hear me? The question I have is, how do you choose the people that are going to be parts of the program?
That's a very good question. We make flyers and consent forms available to the designated individual in the school who opens it up to all kinds of girls. Sometimes it's girls who the school knows are having some type of challenge, or sometimes it's a girl that just is so busy, or as one mother said, she has all brothers, she never spends any time with girls. Can she come to the Supper Club? So it's not us that make the selections. It's the school or the community that's bringing the Supper Club.
Are the schools Erie County entirely, or are they just the city schools, or how are the schools chosen?
Preventionfocus is to serve Erie County, but the Supper Club is a unique and individual type of service. So there's a fee for the Supper Club. It's $1,500 for 10 weeks for 14 girls. And so whoever has that, usually we can come to them. For the most part, it has been in Erie County. So when your church gives money for a Supper Club, then you're sponsoring that Supper Club. In fact, I should have said this when the whole congregation is here. Whenever a group sponsors a Supper Club, they're invited to the final dinner so that they could see it in action. For example, the Zontas of Kenmore have purchased at least 8 Supper Clubs for the Kenmore area over as many years. And they always come to the final dinner. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. This was really informative. I totally get the idea of girls and women being amongst themselves, and the moms and the daughters, but has there been any attempt to have this for young men?
Actually, we're working on trying to expand the Supper Club, since there seems to be greater interest in it than ever before. The reason it wasn't established for boys is because there seemed to be in the research different, that it didn't show that boys wanted to sit around and talk as much as girls wanting to sit around and talk. But we are going to try it with boys in the next few years, probably beginning this summer maybe. Okay.
When you try the boys' club, when you do this, are you going to make it co-ed, or are you going to make it just a single sex? Because I think there's a different way of talking that boys can do when they aren't trying to show off to girls, and I think girls change when boys are around too.
I absolutely agree with that. We have indeed tried one co-ed supper club, and that also, we've done several unusual things in Lackawanna. That was in Lackawanna. It turned more into a total like cooking and eating club, more so than the topics, because again, that wasn't the interest of the boys to talk about self-esteem and things of that nature. Maybe they're thinking about it, but I would say that as we go forward, if we indeed shaped a club for boys, I would feel that there would need to be a male person, at least one leading it. It should, and then perhaps they could have a female supporting or something, but I feel that it should be a male-male thing. But we'll see what actually happens.
More of a comment. I'm in the food business. Do you have corporate sponsors that actually donate food to do this?
We absolutely do not. So the fee that we charge is largely the food, which is, like I said, not packaged at all. So the supper club facilitator shops once a week for fresh produce, fresh everything to take to the supper club. And we use Price Right and Wegmans, and neither of them are partners as far as supporting us. And I don't know how to go about doing.
Let's talk after.
All right, great, thank you.
Her name is Diane, so that you can connect to each other. Anybody else have a question?
How many girls are involved in your program in a year?
We have, 14 girls at a shot, and we do maybe about 5 supper clubs a year, because the state is humoring the story of supper club it's something really that was in my heart, and I went to my boss and said, can't we do something for girls? Because too many women kept saying, when I was younger, I wish I could have explored these topics in my life. And so I shaped it for them. So it was not what the state had for us to do. It was added, and then it lasted all this time, and now there's a need for it. So we can't do it. I wish we could do them all the time, but we can't. Yeah.
Just to follow up to what Diane said, because all the food is from scratch, maybe to reach out to the people at the farmers market, the farmers market,
Okay.
The larger farms that are, might be interested in collaborating in some way.
That's a very good idea too. Thank you so much.
It takes a whole community, you're right.
I just wondered how many years you've been doing this, and how many girls do you think you've helped?
Oh, Lord have mercy. The easier of those questions is I've been working at this particular job since 1984, and I observe supper clubs now. I don't do them. I have a staff person that does them, and I oversee the interns that do them. As far as the number of girls, it could be sizable now, because Carmelina Bergen, that principal that was on the screen, she was in a supper club. Okay? This is how far back that went. Yes.
Anybody else? Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank all of you. Thank you. Okay, crispy baked eggplant. I'll have to try that.